I can't remember for the life of me. I just want to see if I close this, if I just... No, that doesn't... Alright, I can't figure it out for that, so before I do anything else, I'm gonna get this set up. Let's close that for right now. Okay, almost there. Oh, that's a bit loud. Alrighty. So... Forgot I had to reinstall it. So I just kind of wanted to do, I noticed we almost had not really a big thing or anything like that, but like, I think we had a slight milestone on the channel. This would be the 150 video, and I kind of wanted it to be slightly special. Unfortunately, I couldn't think of any subject material to cover, and I just didn't want to upload a long play because the significant that or to because long plays are okay, but I just want to be still my central focus is the podcast, the Sarasalandcast, because they really matter to me, and when I try to think of or at least talk on a video, specifically like a gameplay one, I'm trying to think of just interesting just think of interesting things to bring up while the game is being presented. But a lot of times when I do when I upload a long play, I can't think of anything worthwhile or intelligent or witty or anything like that to say. I kind of just just kind of run my mouth or whatever for the most part. So but anyway, I kind of wanted to go upload another Sarasalandcast, mostly because it's kind of been a while, and I think I always enjoy putting out more Sarasalandcasts than anything else because it gives you kind of a chance to talk, give me and I'm not stressed out. I'm not like thinking, negatively about trying to act all the time, and I don't have a persona like almost other like every other entertaining professional out there is. My on recordings are always to be myself, and unless if you're going to try and be fake, I think that comes around eventually when you say you're tired of the persona. It's hard to get rid of that persona, especially if like you were to say like like Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens. He had Pee Wee Herman for a while, and then had his public indecency incident, and then he just unfortunately he knows that it's probably his most famous character, so even though he doesn't want to do it, he still has had success with coming or with more. I'm just gonna drop that down for a second. More results with just going back to the Pee Wee Herman persona. So, or character, action, whatever. So for the most part, I try to always be, I try to always be in general. I try to always be, I try to always be genuine. I don't want to put on a song and dance because that's kind of what I always did as a kid. I always did that through school, and when you're out of school, you kind of have a chance to relax and be yourself. And school, it's harder to be yourself because, again, any different, not to be a cynic person, but any deviation of the norm, any difference rather, will get you bodied. And it's nobody's fault, or it's, actually, no, I'm not going to say that. Again, it's always the bully that picks on the difference, because, you could be two people that are virtually identical, and the one thing that they would pick up on was that, oh, you say you like peanut butter and jelly, and the other person says, oh, they like peanut butter and let's say, I don't know, just be different, chili peppers or something like that, then that person will get singled out because they like the different thing. So, sorry for a long spiel. I'm getting to the point of this Sarasalandcast. But yeah, I want to do something different. I didn't have any subject matter, that's super important. But when I started writing, I was writing for Sonic Origins. That might be a future video later. And Sonic Origins is, such a train wreck, but I don't know if that deserves a video because, the writing's kind of on the wall. I get it because Sega sees that the two Sonic movies did well, or or did well enough. And let me just check something real quick. Okay. The Sonic movies did well enough, so they want to report the four classics, but not all the mistakes they made. The 4 games that are demonstrably good or demonstrably well made, and they don't want to tell you all the other mess ups they had along the way. Which in all honesty, what they should honestly do all the time is that don't try to hide your mistakes. Highlight your mistakes. Like that Japanese Kin Medai thing, and embrace your mistakes, because that's the only way you should roll in this world is see all the don't take pride in them. Well, take slight pride in them, but don't take so much pride that you oversell yourself. But just take your mistakes in stride and roll with them, because instead of hiding something, once you make it out, or once you put something in the public, then it's not as bad anymore, because it gets demystified. It gets normal, and when it becomes normal, you can talk about it. So but anyway, so that's kind of my 2 cents, at least in the sense of Sonic Origins, where you honestly should, I think it might be video, but for the most part, I don't think there's enough, gravitas. There's not a lot of content, to be written, and because I wrote a whole paragraph. I wrote almost a page of Sonic Origins, or at least a word, or I mean, sorry, a paragraph's couple sentences. And again, it becomes really apparent that again they're just reporting the 4th game, or 4 games, and there's not anything new really being added to them except for being able to play as Knuckles through all 4 games. But even then, again, outside of mods, that's kind of a lame feature. Especially since you could have added something like, I don't know, you could play as Amy, or you could play as Metal Sonic or something like that. So, incidentally, this video is also becoming the Sonic Origins one, so maybe I should put that on the title. Oh well. Anyway, but why I was getting back to the problem at hand was that I didn't have any super significant thing planned. And this was kind of putting a kink or a monkey wrench into my plans because I was writing this for a little bit. I need to port the other videos from the Twitch channel, and all for all honesty, I needed to put out another Sarasalandcast because I want to still commit to it and not, kind of leave it on the back burner as so much. And the only subject that came to mind, I wrote it down a bunch of subjects, but again, like, I want to make sure that I have significant basis for it, or at least a significant understanding. So recently, because I was very bored, a lot of and if you notice, if you watch the Twitch channel, you'll notice a lot of times I'll put up long plays, and that's it. Because I don't know what to talk about, especially for a game that specifically I have never tried, specifically like Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, and like, I'm not trying to be super rude to it because I don't know, again, that game, as evidenced by all the people that donated money on the Kickstarter. In the credits, you see so many people that have, or the biggest backers had like portraits, and then the lower backers had just their name listed. But there were so many people that had their name listed and such that it was just kind of surprising that the credits are full of them. But again, I'm not trying to say I'm scared of the negative response, but I just was saying that I don't have enough of an idea going forward what to say, so I can't accurately say it. And I beat Ty the first one. It's it's a pretty solid game. There's nothing to complain about, except I guess for the looping music. That's my only complaint. The second one so far is taking such a different direction, and whether that's good or bad, I can't say yet because I haven't beaten the game yet. So maybe next Sarasalandcast will be to what's it called, to the talking about Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Other than that, I think the only thing I can say is, hang on for a moment. The other thing I can say for a moment is, again, there's nothing demonstrably wrong with Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Both 1 and 2, the games are reported through to HD. I don't know if it will be, only time will tell whether or not they'll port the third game with HD and all that, but because apparently there is a third game. But again, I've ported I ported Ty, I ported Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. It's an excellent game if you want to try that game. I'm porting over, as of this moment, Research and Destroy. It's a very it's a it's like a third person shooter, kind of like XCOM, or Operation Darkness, the Xbox 360 game where you fight Nazi vampires and werewolves and such. It's an interesting premise, and Fire Emblem, but it's kind of like it has a supernatural bent. So you'll be fighting ghosts, vampires, werewolves. It's almost more akin to Operation Darkness than I think. Fun. Oddly enough, because you're fighting occult, supernatural things, and yeah, it's kind of funny how that kind of similarities of each game, or a game being so closely resembling the other. Um, so kind of like um, that's what I've been working on. But also what I was going to get to the heart of the matter was I tried out, not streaming Star Wars: The Force Unleashed 2, and why I bring that up is because I could probably stream it, but unfortunately it'd probably be muted because I think Star Wars Squadrons, and I ported that I recorded it, then exported it to YouTube, and unfortunately a lot of segments of the game are, you can't, they're hit by the copyright thing, and so unfortunately for the most part you can't stream Star Wars games unless you probably mute the music. But unfortunately that's always a big part of Star Wars, so it's hard to record a game and not say anything about the music because that's such a part of the game itself. So anyway, I didn't record it, I didn't stream it, I just played it, and for most intents and purposes, I wrote down this. In all seriousness, it's like Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. It's a game. It's not great. Again, like I know I took a picture around here somewhere, because I was just like it doesn't really help that what's it called? I know I had it here somewhere. Was it under like LucasArts or? I don't know now if I'm gonna be able to find it, cause it doesn't seem like. I thought I put it here in the pictures. So okay, well that's a little bit disappointing. I think. Aha, there it is. I think that's the first one. Yeah. So, except for Lego Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars, I've tried out that. That's a fantastic game. And Star Wars: The Old Republic, which again is the mmorpg from BioWare. I haven't tried those. This was kind of dire that this was the last thing of that Star Wars, unfortunately, before LucasArts went under, unfortunately, because Disney brought the or bought the Star Wars license and all that, and so as you might be saying, like, why am I even talking about Star Wars: The Force Unleashed 2? Because Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is basically that. It kind of has a protagonist that's kind of basic, and I know mostly because they were saying like, oh, because Rey in the new Star Wars movies was that they didn't want to have another female protagonist. But even then, that's kind of a very, very lame attitude to have, I guess. And other than that, um, I know they even talked about with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, they wanted a black woman protagonist, or possibly black woman protagonist, and that was nixed by the development team, or LucasArts or whatever. And but anyway, why I kind of bring this up is that why even talk about Star Wars Force Unleashed 1 and 2 if Jedi Fallen Order is a rousing success? Well, again, like I have Jedi Fallen Order. I've seen it played, by multiple friends and my brother. It's a solid game, but I don't want to try that yet until I talk about Force Unleashed, because Force Unleashed 1, when it came out, I enjoyed it. I read reviews and I kind of poisoned my idea of it, because then I kind of just started looking at it through the lens of the reviewer, and that kind of hurt my perception of it, because again, like, it put more the bad aspects in more harsher light, and unfortunately that kind of puts the game more in a skew from another person's point of view instead of my personal point of view. So replaying Force Unleashed, I did it a couple times here and there. Again, it's there's nothing super to complain about. It's a good start for what it is. Force Unleashed 2 is not the answer to Force Unleashed 1, unfortunately. So yeah. So Force Unleashed 1, there's an okay amount of content. The DLC, the skins pack just is the most confusing thing. I think mostly because they wanted more content, because the Wii version had an exclusive fighting game mode, more kind of similar to Star Wars Episode 3, the game, and which Star Wars The Force Unleashed has so many similarities with the Episode 3, the game, because it has a fighting game in some aspects, and the musical choice of the excerpt of Arrival on Tatooine, I think, is used on the menu for Force Unleashed, or Star Wars Episode 3, the game. And then after you beat like the first half of the missions, after every mission on Force Unleashed 1, they'll use that music after, or like the how you did results. And so I'm going like that. The choice would probably not occurred organically. These games must have been like built on top of each other as they were being developed. Even though there was a significant gap between Star Wars Episode 3 and Force Unleashed, it just similarities kind of like it just kind of seems like, wow, it just seems like they just they kind of reuse assets and all that. Again, like, you probably reuse assets a ton, because if they're Star Wars, then you're probably reusing a lot of the same Stormtrooper models, Darth Vader, etc. But anyway, what I was gonna get at was so Force Unleashed and Episode 3 of the game seem so similar. But also so Force Unleashed, it's an okay game. The RPG aspects are a little bit basic, but again, they're there. There's more going for it than the second game, Force Unleashed 2, because Force Unleashed 2, it's it's insanely short. It's combat seemed more frantic and slightly more thought out, because there are enemies that specifically counter you, like block lightsabers, block force powers, but they're still easily dispatched versus being a real hindrance. The most annoying things are the mech enemies, which even then they're easy to defeat too. You just stand by and force lightning them, which if you were to do that in the Devil May Cry game or Bayonetta or something like that, you can't get away with it just gunning down enemies, because it usually doesn't do that much damage, and you'll get bodied for it. You'll get destroyed. And um, that kind of what kind of stems from the Force Unleashed 2's biggest problem is that combat is just not that is not that interesting, even though graphically it looks a little bit better than the first game. Um, there's a lot of cheap aspects, again, kind of like the first game where you could just force grip people and just toss them off the ledge. You can still do that, but it's more, or it's less imperative for you to do that, or it's not a option per se, because there's again more enemies that block your force powers. But again, if if the force grip wasn't enough, even though it's stupid and fun, they gave you a mind trick this time in the second game, and the mind trick works okay. What's even worse is that it will just cause enemies to jump off the ledge more often than not, and it will rarely, except for the final boss fight, it will rarely force them to fight on your behalf. That's what you kind of want, because you want them to do damage to other enemies instead of just crowd clearing the fight. So sorry, that's all my thoughts. Kind of just there. I'm kind of just gonna read the things I wrote verbatim, because I'm trying to think of anything I forgot, and this is kind of there to remind myself that I was what I was originally going about. I talked about a little bit what I wrote down, but I want to just kind of read it back verbatim. So I was on a kick. I didn't know what video games to play now. Kind of what I've been doing is just streaming Rogue Company and Smite, unfortunately. So those are bad games, but I kind of just using that to fill time. And I was kind of fired recently, so that's kind of why I'm streaming so much more. Because I applied to Home Depot today, and hopefully I can hear back from them. And I applied as a security guard, and unfortunately I think that fell through because an email, I forgot to clear out my emails recently, and unfortunately that might fall through. But anyway, right, streaming Smite and Rogue Company, Star Wars, and doing the occasional long play. Right, I need to get back to the Sarasalandcast. I started up Star Wars Force Unleashed 2, and it's one of the few modern Star Wars games I haven't tried. I figured the first one was passable. Let's try the second one. Let me say the second one is worse in every way, except slight graphics upgrades and more lightsaber colors, which, again, it's kind of cool because same thing with the first one where they introduced the black lightsaber color and the dark saber being important later on. They have silver in this game, which was kind of was in Knights of the Republic 2 as a random color you could get, or from vendors. And same thing with like cyan and bronze in Knights of the Republic 2. Those were like new lightsaber colors, which is cool. So they have black and silver / white in this game, but also like there's kind of like a deviation. It's almost like magenta and pink, and I say that I think I wrote that down as well. But it's cool that they tried again, and unfortunately, I think the only lightsaber color that hasn't been reprised is pink. And I kind of wish they had some character at some point pick pink, I guess. And not be an evil villain, but, just have pink. Like, it's kind of dumb that, like, so much color, so much color choices are like, oh, this character is the villain because they're red and black. And that's kind of dumb because then red is always associated with evil, or like Darth Vader is always going to be associated with evil. He's not gonna stop being evil. So that's kind of like always color coded into our brains, more or less, that always a villain with red or black or something like that. So But again, like, it'd be great if Pink was reintroduced to another thing at one point. So also is if you played the Force Unleashed one, this kind of let's start off with a spoiler. Darth Vader stabs Starkiller, or Galen Merrick. Yes, great name, LucasArts. Through the chest and then flings it out the Star Destroyer window. In fact, when I was writing this, I just rewatched it, and although Joy picks them up, being stabbed, force pushed to two walls, in the window, and then the vacuum of space, no breathable air. That's a pretty final death. And to bring up even the ending, the Starkiller, or whatever his name is, Galen Merrick, he sacrifices himself at the end for the light side ending. That's another case for death. So although characters in Star Wars seemingly come back just because, although this was before Darth Maul, Boba Fett, or this was a little bit before Darth Maul coming back in Clone Wars, Boba Fett coming back in the Mandalorian / extended universe material, or pre-Mandalorian, but probably after extended universe material, and Emperor Palpatine, pre-extended universe material, post or after extended universe material, pre-episode 9 dumb reveal, came back outside of the extended universe. So there's no causality in the Star Wars universe. So anyway, so the next level, in the sense of Force Unleashed 1, he, after the chest stab, he's either a clone or undead like Darth Sion. And the second game states you are a clone. So if Starkiller sacrificed himself in the first game, are you the clone of a clone, or are you the clone of a dead guy? Like, great, they never, in brass tacks explained it. So, and this is another super minor thing. Again, I'm not an expert on genetics or anything like that, but I just think that if you clone somebody, I don't think they ever considered the genetic ramifications of cloning, given that if you're a clone, you only retain 50% of your memory, so the rest is from experience. So, if anything, so the Starkiller clone wouldn't necessarily remember Proxy or Juno or Vader for that matter, even though Vader is training the new clone. So, the rest of the game is as follows. You rebel against Vader because you have some latent memories from the original Starkiller. You escape Kamino, go to Cato Nemoidia, which is the home planet of the Nemoidians, I guess. Which is funny that it even autocorrects you, so that Google even knows that it's Nemoidia and Nemoidians. I guess I'm not, again, they care so much about being accurate to the Nemoidians. Which again, I'm not alone with criticizing Star Wars, so but it's funny that they care so much of getting things accurate that they have it auto-corrected for you. So yeah, you go to the Cato Nemoidia, which is the home planet of the Nemoidians, to rescue Ram Koda from the last game, Steel Blind, which he may have been Proto-Kanan from Rebels, which is kind of funny, to Dagobah for a couple of cutscenes and Yoda complaining about seagulls. And it's even funnier that clearly with Dagobah, they do not care, because the collectibles are just almost directly in the path, and I don't know why they would even make that section playable, because you just walk around for 5 seconds and then a cutscene occurs, and then you go to Rebel Medical Frigate, one of those big ships, and then back to Kamino. So, it's so short that you don't go from Kamino to Cato Nemoidia to Dagobah to the Rebel Frigate and then back to Kamino. So that's 5 levels essentially, but technically only 3 or 4 technically, because Kamino both levels. I'm just gonna combine those because it's the one world. Even when you're going through the first game, when you went back to the old planets like Kashyyyk and the scrap planet that the Pike guy has on, Kasdan Paratus, you that's at the very least, even when it's padding out the length of the story, that's at the very least, different instead of like, using so much of the same material for such a short measure. Granted, when you go back to Kashyyyk, you're not Darth Vader, you're Starkiller, but again, like, I think it was a little bit better of them reusing the same material in the first one instead of the second one, because it's kind of so transparent that, like, oh, Vader's on Camino, you have to go back there. And the fact of Yoda just standing guard at the evil cave is just kind of dumb, which I kind of re-bring that up. So, anyway, so the game's biggest problem is that it's insanely short for a game, but before we talk about that, we need to talk about everything. The game starts with Starkiller wielding two lightsaber backwards like the first game, so they up the edginess by having two. He's very much Shadow the Hedgehog. The combos, in the sense of the Force lightning, look comparatively worse because, again, it's up the notch, and it really should have. Because the graphic kind of just goes, nuts. It kind of goes way beyond the lightsaber and just kind of almost covers a whole screen, which looks dumb. And certain Force lightning combos, it kind of messes up the frame rate considerably. It will always, like, hiccup, especially when you do, like, one of the sweeps or one of the, like, overhead slashes with the Force lightning. The only thing they really did was with the combat was add the mind trick force ability, which I kind of brought that up already, and that's not really a great addition because it makes combat stupidly easy, but also it only really helps in the final showdown against Vader, but we'll get to that eventually. Also, they added a rage system, and I frankly only needed to use that twice during the whole game. Again, it fills up after you take or deal enough damage, and you use it, and it makes combat stupidly easy, and that's the point of a rage system. But also, I forgot to write this down, but this also makes the game incredible. I don't know if it was from the lightsaber crystals, because they were named so much more like, I think, not coercion, but like corrosion and life. So I think they never explained that, but I almost feel like the lightsaber crystals give you extra bonuses, like so many of the other Star Wars games, like Knights of the Republic, and I think the first game as well, that, maybe not the first game of Star Wars The Force Unleashed, because I think damage was another RPG leveling thing. But in this one, it's so apparent that it's rushed that just all the force powers are there, locked, or most of them are locked, and then you just upgrade them from getting experience points instead of, like, I think getting a level up and getting one of those red spears or red orbs from the first game, or like I think the blue spears or yellow spears. So it's kind of dumb that they're named that they might have special abilities, but they never explain it to you. If they explain it in the options, then I don't know, because I don't know if they never said it in the options or there's a tutorial, but they never said that. So, or at least explicitly in English in front of you saying, like, oh, yes, all the lightsaber crystals have specific or special properties. You will get bonuses from them because you heal really fast, not just outside of combat, or you almost get full health outside of combat, and that might be from a lightsaber crystal, but it didn't seem in combat that they were giving me, like, extra bonuses or anything like that. It didn't seem apparent. So after Nemoidia, you go to Cato Nemoidia, after Camino, you go to Cato Nemoidia, where Imperial Officer Baron Marillion Tarko, which, yes, great villain name, which, again, I shouldn't be so negative because I'm kind of shitting on a person's ability to write, and I'm essentially writing right now. But, try more, or try better next time, is having Ram Koda fight gladiatorial battles for him. That sounds great, but it's kind of dumb that they're having another, like, you know, fight in this arena like Episode 2 and Episode 6 when Luke fights the Rancor. And yes, it's very... They're not using it for a better cause. Cat and Whitey looks cool, but unfortunately it also looks like Cloud City, which you went to in the first one as well. And there is a cool train section where you're on like a hover tram going to the other side fighting a gunship, but at the same time it's kind of dumb because there's not so much stuff going on. There's another tram section in the Rebel Medical Frigate, but it's kind of ruined because you have to fight all these tiny spider droids, which are the like buzzsaw tiny droids from the Episode 3 movie. So yeah, it's not great because they're just small and you just have to defeat them by force repulsing them, which you basically get that in the course, I think, from that level. But again, it's just a poor enemy excuse. So yeah. And again, I absolutely love the train / boat levels because again, it may be cliche from like a storytelling point of view, but like that's always one of my favorite things in a video game. Like Phantasy Star Online, episode 1 and 2, or just rather episode 1, has a great boss fight against Dayrol Lee, this like sewer slug monster, and you're on a boat, and that's what I love about it, because you have nowhere to go except fight the monster. So even though you're speeding away at like tons, or as fast as light or fast as sound or whatever, you have nowhere to go. You have to defeat this monster to progress. So same thing with like Final Fantasy X. You fight Sin, on a boat. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate has that fight against that giant sand creature, and you fire cannonballs at him, and you sling like a grappling hook onto its side, and you jump on and fight him that way. The one in Monster Hunter World, the Zora Magdaros, is not as... It's cool, but I wish it was better. Like you had like the fight aboard a giant ship, but it's just a giant wall, and you kind of just divert it instead of defeating it. And on a lesser note, which might be in a future video, Monster or Lost Planet 2 also has, you're fighting a giant, sandworm creature. You gotta load shells on this giant railgun and such. And there's even like flying helicopters type thing. So it's another like, it's a cool, great thing. And unfortunately, it's kind of just trivialized in Force Unleashed 1 or Force Unleashed 2 with both train and tram sections. Even so, it's like they're kind of repeating the same old thing, because even referencing older Star Wars games, there's like a planet which you have a train level in Shadows of the Empire, and I think you're like fighting Boba Fett. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy that like you had a train level too in... Why I was bringing it up, and that might be cliche as well, because, and not just in Shadows of the Empire, but in a lot of beat 'em ups too, there's a train stage. I think some fighting games have a train stage. I think maybe one of the Fatal Furies, or in 007 GoldenEye, you have a train stage as well. So there's a lot of train stages, and it's kind of funny. Oh yeah, Star Fox 64, you fight on Macbeth against a guy that's tethered to the train. There's a train level in Star Wars Rogue Squadron 1, which you I think like you recruit the Imperial pilot. I think not Kathleen. I can't think of her name, but also you rescue Wedge from a prison transfer convoy. So yeah, there's a lot of train levels in video games and Star Wars media. But anyway, I love the train level so much because there's so much happening on it, and it's just a cool moving stage. Oh yeah, that's a great train stage as well. Psylocke stage in Marvel Superheroes, where it's like at Tokyo and you're on top of a train. Or it's so much a cliche that it's even joked about in Archer, where it's like, why do people want to do this? It's the same as fighting on the train. So anyway, So yeah, I'm getting distracted. So when you eventually reach Coda, Tarko releases a Gorog, a bigger and dumber Rancor, essentially, because you even see it eats a Rancor, or they release a Rancor first to be like, oh, this is so threatening because you fought dozens of them in the Felucia level for Force Unleashed 1, and then the Rancor gets eaten by the Gorog, and I think it's funny that they were probably patting themselves on the back that they didn't name like Grogu because it's kind of close to that. Just rearrange the letters G-O-R-G and just G-R-O-G-O and just change the U, almost anagram, or anagram. My bad. I don't want to mess that a word. I don't think you want to get an analgram. So anyway, when the Gorog is eventually defeated, Coda and Starkiller escape the planet, and Starkiller says he wants to meditate, and Coda says you can't go on a pilgrimage with Kashyyyk or Dagobah while a war is going on. And Starkiller just, goes to Dagobah just because. And again, Yoda just straight up doesn't care what Starkiller does. He just acts as a guard of the evil cave, trademark, because Luke goes in there in Episode 5. Then after Starkiller has a vision of Juno being kidnapped, he and Coda rush to the rebel fleet that Juno is on, but the fleet is attacked by Imperial forces that are arriving on Kamino, and Juno is kidnapped by Boba Fett and new stealth stormtroopers that are more or less the stealth clone troopers from Star Wars Episode 3, the game. Which again, that's why I bring up Episode 3, the game, so often, at least in this, because so many things are so dead set similar. And when the rebel ship is finished, you crash land on Kamino using the rebel ship as a battering ram, which is, again, it's kind of weird that, again, we're trying to one-up the Star Destroyer from the first one, and also kind of reminds me of Rogue One, when the rebel ships crash into the Star Destroyers, which kind of, wow, another prelude to this future Star Wars content. This, Blind Jedi, characters being resurrected, but in a sense, I almost forgot KOTOR 2 has Visas, or Knights of the Republic 2, which has Visas, who is a race called the Meriluka, who are blind but see through the Force. And you can even see that, too. It's cool if you because you could switch party members in Knights of the Republic 2. If you try to go switch to Visas and you go first-person mode, you see everything in like and I've been recently watching Two Best Friend videos again. That it's kind of like I think that horror game Perception, where you don't see the world, but you see the kind of force lines in the sense of Star Wars Knights of the Republic 2. But so it's not entirely groundbreaking as I thought it was, but it's kind of funny that, again, Coda being a blind Jedi with a man bun, and then Kanan eventually becoming blind and having almost the same hairstyle. But so it's anyway, eventually you fight Darth Vader, who doesn't really fight back and uses a failed Starkiller clone to fight you primarily. It's really dumb because it's a dumb platforming section where you fight the clones, and then he, again, like Vader just runs away consistently. He has 2 health bars, which is even dumber because the Gorog had 3 health bars, so Darth Vader is weaker than the giant Monstar, and the fight takes forever, and again, like I was saying, he doesn't really fight you, he just blocks, and you have to mind trick the failed Starkiller clones to fight him, and then you get damage in, and yeah, so besides Darth Vader, oh yeah, that's another thing, it's even dumber that the clones have lightsabers in the tank. They should be unarmed, all of them, because does that mean the lightsabers are growing organically? Like, why do these guys already have lightsabers ready to go off the bat? So yeah, Darth Vader is the only boss fight in the game besides the Gorog and the gunship previously, and it's really annoying because you fought like 3 or 4 Jedi opponents. Coda in the first game, Kazdan Paradish, Shaak Ti, I think Maris Brood at one point, the apprentice of Shaak Ti, and you fight Vader and in the first game. So it's kind of dumb that Darth Vader is the only force-wielding lightsaber opponent in this game. So when Vader is eventually defeated, it just defaults to 2 choices, the dark side and the light side, which is sadder because it's less choices than Mass Effect 3, and it does the same thing as the first game. So the recap: Camino, Cato Nemoidia, Dagobah, the Camino again. It's awful that this is so short and probably rushed, because if you look at the last couple of games LucasArts was developing, I brought this up before being bought up by the Disney merger, this, Lego Star Wars 3, the Clone Wars, Star Wars Kinect. Yeah, Star Wars Kinect is just super dire, and again, you've probably already seen it so many times in the past. And Star Wars The Old Republic, and a bunch of iOS, Android mobile games, which unfortunately that's not great into a company. When looking at the first game, at least, I brought this up again, it seems apparent that the same with Sonic 2 and Sonic CD, where each game were being developed on top of each other, it seemed The Force Unleashed was being developed at the same time as Episode 3 of the game, because it's so similar to certain aspects like music choice and the fighting game aspect. So The Force Unleashed 2 removed so many aspects to make both of these games good. It removes unlockable combos, combat is less intuitive, no one-on-one fights except the gunship on Cato Nemoidia, because the Gorog has stormtroopers fighting you every now and then, and again Darth Vader is using the Star Killer clones to fight you instead of fighting back. What's even worse is it has less incentive for replayability, mostly because you only get 4 costumes from the main campaign. I think you got more in the first game, and you play the first one achievement space, you'll get 2 additional costumes, plus and I forgot to rewrite this immediately, almost all the collectibles are directly in the path of gameplay. The levels are created such you rarely go out of your way to get a collectible, and I didn't get all the lightsaber colors and such because I messed up on a door on the Rebel frigate, where you're supposed to put one of the stupid charges in the door for it. But I was still missing a significant portion of lightsaber crystals, so even though most of the collectibles were in the direct path, which was dumb, I don't feel enough of a need to go back to get the other lightsaber crystals, because it just gives you so you can have 2 of the same color. You have red at the bat. You get orange secondly, and you get blue, I think early. And the funny thing is, I got 2 orange, I got 2 blue, so it's kind of setting up the concept art I have there, or not the concept art, the art of on the box where he has 2 blue lightsabers. So again, I think it's funny too that they, same as the first game, they put the black lightsaber crystal at the end of the game, so you barely get any mileage out of it, besides New Game Plus. But yeah, every other costume is almost just a skin of a character from the DLC from both games, where, it's like they said, oh, you can be Lando, you can be Darth Malak, and that's kind of interesting, but not really. So again, the only funny thing is seeing C-3PO wielding a lightsaber from the first game, but again, that's why would I waste money on that for just a skin? So at the very least, because I beat the game with the light side ending, you get 4 costumes. One's Boba Fett, one's a Stormtrooper costume, one's a Jump Trooper costume, and the only costumes that are near original are the Rebel costume. Kind of looks like Starkiller's face is in the hood and the helmet, and the Jedi prototype armor, or the prototype Jedi armor, because that looks like they tried. But also looks like the Sith, besides the ones that block your lightsaber attacks and block your force powers, they start near the end of the game, they have these guys that are just, I think they're Sith acolytes or whatever, where they have 2 double-bladed red lightsabers, and those are usually the replacements for the guy that block your lightsaber and block your force attacks, so, which essentially you can still defeat them with force repulse, so it's hard to, justify them being unbeatable when they can just be defeated by another force ability. They block everything else except for the repulse, which doesn't make sense. So the DLC is even more baffling because beyond the skin packs and the actual Dark Side, Tatooine, Hoth, and Endor levels from both games, which again, outside has of the extended universe had Leia be a Jedi, which is funny because another thing they realized before or in episode 9 or 8-9. So there are two outfits that can't be downloaded anymore. One that combines Darth Maul and Starkiller, and you get silver lightsaber crystals. So I don't know how they differ, or if it was just a thing to that's time saving thing like in the Ubisoft games, because there's silver lightsaber crystals, but there's also white/silver in the base of the game, so I don't know, again, like I'm saying, if it was just a time saver. And an outfit based on the concept art of Ralph McQuarrie, or Query, I don't know the right way to say his name, who painted several interesting takes on each character. The original, specifically Darth Vader having a blue lightsaber and being more, and C-3PO, I think, R2-D2 and Yoda look definitely different, and Chewbacca looks the most different. Again, like, it's kind of funny that Rebels use the concept art of Chewbacca to make Zeb, or at least Ralph McQuarrie's concept art to make Zeb. So I think that's what they and the concept art of R2-D2 was more or less the inspiration for Chopper, basically, which is kind of funny. But anyway, the original concept art of Ralph McQuarrie featured a female character called Starkiller, who was more or less looked like Luke in a Hoth gear. Starkiller, I don't know originally in writing if Starkiller, I think even in George Lucas' script, Starkiller was the OG character, at least in the concept art, until Luke Skywalker came to existence. So I'm sad that Star Wars did not feature. It's the same thing with, like, they unearthed Legend of Zelda artwork that had a female Link. So it's kind of lame that, like, the female Starkiller only exists in the Funko Pops. I have them on one of my shelves, and one of the figures, I think, pre the Funko Pops concept series Ralph McQuarrie art. But yeah, like I was saying, it's a bit disappointing that Star Wars never became different. But before I even say that, that's a story for another time. Maybe in the story where, maybe that's another video where I say, like, oh, Jess would have been, or if Jessica Henwick would have become Rey, I feel like the sequel trilogy would have been better and would have been less Rey does everything, Finn does only shoots the cannon in episode 7 on the Millennium Falcon, and that's kind of it. And then he basically does nothing else for the rest of the trilogy. But anyway, so Luke Skywalker came into existence, also because George Lucas loved Flash Gordon, so he wanted a blonde idiot. So it's a bit disappointing that Star Wars never became different. So the DLC is disappointing, the game is disappointing. The only other takeaway from the game, almost like the first game, is that it introduces more lightsaber colors. Again, it honestly seems like pink was introduced for the first time, and I know pink is made from red, essentially, because you have white and red. But also, if you kind of look at some of the older Star Wars takes with the red lightsaber, it kind of does look pink. But I seriously, I want somebody to try and incorporate a pink lightsaber into a story, and not shy away from it and be like, oh, this is too girly, this is too, like, it'd be cool if they again did something like the I think the black lightsaber color from Force Unleashed 1, like, I think that was before the Clone Wars episode where the dark saber was established. So that's another thing of, like, just interesting. But yeah, pink was introduced for the first time because there are almost magenta and pink colors to be chosen and picked up as collectibles, and silver white was reprised from Knights of the Republic 2, which odd enough was before Ahsoka had dual silver light color or white colors. And again, the black lightsaber color was reprised again before the Clone Wars had put emphasis on the darksaber. Sorry, I kind of said that before. It's crazy that the Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett reprised so many things from Clone Wars, also because it's from the same creator, but also the Clone Wars Star Wars media possibly took from both of these games. Again, it's crazy, in a span of 2 games, again, not counting the expanding universe, crashing ships into each other, blind man-bun Jedi Leia, resurrected characters, silver and black being important lightsaber colors later, called so many future things. The only thing they didn't call was yellow lightsabers being important, as unfortunately Rey getting the yellow lightsaber and Luke getting a yellow lightsaber in the comics just like, like 5 months, 2 months later, like some span of time later, that of just like, oh, and I talked about it initially when near when Star Wars Episode 9 came out, that like besides extended universe stuff, like I swear like Basil was the first one, at least, popularized having a double bladed yellow lightsaber, and besides Darth Maul, like that's dope. And I don't think Basil ever gets the props of like that's pretty cool. And then Asajj Ventress later stopped becoming a Sith assassin and became a bounty hunter and got a yellow lightsaber and got hair. That's so cool. I wish they didn't kill her off, because that's insanely dope. Like, why would you do this? Like, one of the coolest characters, and you just like write a non-significant inclusion. But unfortunately, that kind of way the cookie crumbles. That's the most horseshit thing, because like you see like, oh, okay, they'll go the distance for Vader / Anakin and be like, oh, he can be redeemed even though he massacred tons of people, children and planets. But like so many women characters are killed off unceremoniously and dumb, like Padme and Leia and Asajj Ventress, and they're only going on a limb for Ahsoka just because, and Zam Wessel, and I don't know who else, but and I guess metaphorically Rose Tico, because all the people hate her, and even though people will just go to the bat and say like, oh, you're just racist, sexist, but it's kind of striking that people are willing to hate a minority and not help the hate on Rey, or somebody that's demonstrably white, like Oscar Isaac or something. Because again, if those movies are bad, then it's not just Rose Tico, it's everybody involved in the production. I think it's even funnier too that like, Rose Tico was getting attacked all the time, and like Finn and Rey, or the actors, they're like, oh, I'm not gonna defend Kelly Marie Tran. I got my own self to think about. And I'm going like, that's fucking atypical. That even like Mark Hamill's like, oh, I don't care, man. I'm just here to get my paycheck. And like, nobody cares, and you just let everybody just get bodied. So sorry, I went on more of a tangent there. I went on a lot of tangents. So this was the 150 video. I know it's not super special. I kind of wanted it to be special, but I just wanted to release the Sarasalandcast to be the 150 video. So, thank you everyone for watching. I've been your host, Reroll Zero, signing off. Yeah, sure, save changes. Oh my. Star Wars Force Unleashed. Shitfest. 2 Shitfest. Let's just name it that. Alrighty. How do I end stream?